Oh, the NBA is now investigating the Clippers and they are scrambling. Steve Ballmer just went on ESPN to try to defend himself. So did the Clips pay Kawhi through a company called Aspiration to get around the salary cap? Because if they did, it could ruin the Clippers. Draft picks docked, Kawhi forced to leave. One reporter even says Steve Ballmer could be forced to sell the team. Well, now the story just got a whole lot worse. Because Pablo found out Kawhi got $28 million in cash for doing nothing. But now, an outlet called Boston Sports Journal says, according to a high-level source, Leonard also cut a side deal to receive $20 million in company stock that brought the total of promised compensation to Leonard to $48 million, almost the exact amount Steve Ballmer put in. So dude pays Aspiration $50 mil, they send it to Kawhi. Obvious. But unfortunately, there is one little detail that could save Kawhi and the Clips from any punishment. But I am watching a lot of games again these days. NBA's not here yet. Football is back. And Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. And the one thing that's guaranteed, at least for me, is I'm going to have a lot more fun watching these games. The best part, their app is really easy to use. To create a lineup, all you have to do is pick more or less of a few players' stats. For example, this week I'm going with Jared Goff more on his fantasy score than Jalen Waddle more on his receptions and CeeDee Lamb lower on his receptions. And if you only like two of my picks, they have a max discount. This week it is Lamar Jackson. All he's got to do is pass for over a half yard and you're good. Maybe win a little bit of money, but like I said, for me, always have a lot more fun watching these games. Prize Picks available in 45 states, including Texas and California. And nothing helps out the channel more than signing up with Prize Picks as a new player. And if you play just $5, you get $50 in lineups instantly, win or lose. But you got to use that code AMHoops when you sign up. Again, if you play $5, you get $50 in lineups instantly, win or lose, code AMHoops. And I want to be clear, the Clippers obviously went around the salary cap and broke rules, should be punished, but there is a good chance they get away. Why? Well, in my last video, I said that the CBA changed the rules on salary cap circumvention, but I want to amend that. Turns out Article 8, Section 1 covers general prohibitions. Punishment is one draft pick. But I didn't see Section 2, unauthorized agreements. There it says the NBA can take away all the picks, so this is serious. But still, what can the NBA prove? Well, Pablo found Kawhi got $28 million in cash to endorse Aspiration unless it conflicts with his beliefs, whatever that means. So he didn't take a single photo, shoot a commercial, nothing. But the one thing they did care about was him playing for the Clippers. A clause gave Aspiration the right to terminate the contract if Leonard is no longer an employee of the Clippers for any reason. Also, an ex-employee said, even when they were going bankrupt, priority number one was sending Kawhi his check. Guilty! But what about the timeline? People said, oh, this is why Kawhi chose the Clippers over the Lakers and the Raptors. But actually, Kawhi signed in 2019. The Aspiration deal happened in 2021. But Ballmer ain't that dumb. There were stories about Uncle Dennis looking for sketchy deals. So the Clippers would have been stupid to do this in 2019. They had to smartly wait until the heat died down. So the timeline actually makes sense. In August 2021, Ballmer wires Aspiration $50 million. Then the Clippers and Aspiration announce a $300 million partnership. And just a month later, Kawhi suspiciously signs a 4-year team-friendly contract. How convenient. And we all know this because Aspiration then went bankrupt and all the details came out. But while everyone is digging the Clippers' grave, former Mavericks owner Mark Cuban randomly said this: I'm on Team Ballmer. Steve isn't that dumb. If he did try to feed Kawhi money, knowing what was at stake for him personally and his team, do you think he'd let the company go bankrupt, knowing all creditors would be visible to the world? Yeah, Mark, he would, because the paper trail unfortunately proves nothing. And look, I hate to say this, because obviously the Clippers broke the rules, but Ballmer's chilling. I mean, do you think that he's going to bail out a scam company for hundreds of millions of dollars? Maybe if he thought that this could take take him down, but he knows it won't. First of all, it is common for a player to be sponsored by the same company who sponsors his team. For example, LeBron's got a deal with Crypto.com, who sponsors the Lakers Arena. Steph works with Chase, the Dubs Arena sponsor. Giannis and BMO, Anthony Edwards and Aura. Even in football with Patrick Mahomes. So Kawhi being sponsored by Aspiration proves nothing. Oh, it is shady, but that's it. And all Kawhi had to do to cover his tracks was take a couple photos, make a commercial, but for some reason he did nothing. Stupid! But you cannot punish someone for being stupid. In fact, The Athletic pushed Pablo Torre on this. They said, Pablo, great report, but what is the worst piece of evidence that you found?
Literally the fact that we had 7 sources, including one on tape, saying we were told it was to circumvent the salary cap. What we do not have is Steve Ballmer putting into an email, this was to circumvent the salary cap, period, send. I would say that that would be shocking.
Yeah, that would be so dumb. No one would ever do that. I mean, you'd be crazy to expect to find that in writing. But actually, the comp everybody makes here is the Joe Smith Timberwolves scandal, where the Timberwolves got wrecked by the league. But they were stupid enough to put their whole scheme in writing. The NBA investigator found a secret written agreement between the Wolves and Joe Smith. It said they would pay him a future contract worth up to $86 million if he signed cheap deals between 99 and 01 to preserve cap space. So yeah, it would be shocking if Steve Ballmer wrote this in an email like Joe Smith, but he didn't. And dude learned this a long time ago. In 2015, Ballmer put it in writing that they would hook up DeAndre Jordan with a Lexus deal to pay him $200K per year on the side. Well, the NBA found that and docked him $250,000. So from that day on, do you think Ballmer is gonna put Kawhi's deal in writing? No. And that's why the NBA was able to come down that hard on the Timberwolves back in the day. Unfortunately, all we have here is an ex-employee saying this.
We also have a deal with Kawhi Leonard. If I had any questions about it, don't, because it was to circumvent the salary cap, LOL. There was lots of LOL when things were shared.
Yeah, that's bad. Obviously, the Clippers did this. I'm not saying they didn't, but you can't prove anything based on that. All this proves is that Aspiration was run by stupid, scammy people who decided to pay Kawhi a shady deal. And we already knew that. They're a bunch of scammers. And that's exactly what Steve Ballmer just told ESPN to defend himself.
I don't know why they did what they did. And frankly, any speculation would be crazy. These were guys who committed fraud. How would I be able? Look, they conned me at this stage. I have no ability to predict why they might have done anything they did.
Yep, the same Mark Cuban theory. It's what he's gonna tell the NBA when they ask, and as long as they can't prove it like they did with Joe Smith in writing, it's his word against Pablo's. I mean, yeah, it's weird that they gave Kawhi all that money to do nothing, but I don't control what they do. Plus, those guys are scammers. Who knows why they did anything? Oh, but what happens if Adam Silver is like, yeah, I don't care what we can prove. Obviously, you broke the rules. We are coming down hard. Well, Steve Ballmer is worth $150 billion, and he will sue them. And do you think the other 29 owners want their business then to all come out in open court? Pablo already said he is getting tips about Jalen Brunson's deal in New York. Brunson signed maybe the most team-friendly deal of all time. Dude left potentially $113 million on the table to help the Knicks. Why? Was a shady deal agreed upon there too? What other deals are out there that we don't know about? So as much as I hate to say this, even though it is so obvious that the Clippers were scamming the NBA, unless they can prove it like they did with Joe Smith, I don't think LA gets anything like a serious punishment. And I want to be clear because I know I'm going to get a lot of hate in the comments. Yes, obviously, the Clippers did the wrong thing. They broke the rules. They should be punished, but you can't prove anything. Even Pablo said it himself. The most they have is that an ex-anonymous employee said they were circumventing the salary cap, LOL, okay? And that Aspiration and Steve Ballmer were in business together. Again, like, it's shady, it's obvious, but it doesn't prove anything. Maybe they get a little fine, and maybe there's a new rule that players can't be sponsored by a company that also sponsors their team, but the death penalty, not gonna happen. But we do know that Kawhi is not gonna be repping Team USA in 2028. Dude is way too injury prone. Everyone else is just way too old at that point. So who is going to be on that Olympic roster? Because the rest of the world has already caught up and Team USA is in trouble.